I think that we need to understand that things, again, with this notion of change, that this isn't even about reading and writing anymore. I love this quote. It's Alfred Toffler. It says, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Our kids have got to be, one of the most important things we can teach kids is flexibility, agility of mind, the ability to change paths and directions. How many of you are currently have a device on your purse, are working on a device, or have it in your pocket, that the very concept of which was science fiction 20 years ago? Right? I mean, like, seriously, go back. I saw on one of the stations, I can't remember if it was Nick at Night or one of them, an episode of The Jetsons. And while I'm really upset that we don't have the hover car yet, much of the rest of what they had actually looks dated. I mean, they didn't see this interface coming. They have buttons and stuff, you know? I mean, so, you know, and to prove this point, to make it even more so, this photo that I stole off of Flickr, Creative Commons, this is from the Slide Rule Museum. How many people in the room will cop to learning math from a slide rule? A few brave, wow, a lot of brave souls. Awesome. When was the last time you picked one up? Last week, okay, someone, were you doing the math, or just you still like it, or you found it in the attic? Awesome, yes. I did not give him $20 to say that, I swear. You know, the amazing thing is that this is true for students and teachers as well. I am willing to bet, I have this image in my head of the last teacher to use a slide rule to teach math. And she's there, and it's this little old lady, and she was really good at it, and it's like, you know, you'll have my slide rule and you can pry it from my cold, dead hands. The kids need to learn it this way. Everything else is the cheating, you know. No, we call that collaboration. No. But the problem is that what was driving that? Ego. So here's my slide rule moment. How many people recognize this? Right? Show of hands. How many web designers in the room? HTML. In 1996, I was teaching in New York City, and I was teaching English, and I was having kids write their essays on the web, and I'd found 20 or 30 of my friends who were good writers and who could help my kids cyber mentoring with their writing. And that was giving me the reason to teach all the kids HTML. Literally, I taught them in a unit on a Linux box using Pico, the Linux editor, and hard coding their essays. That was the best tool I had. And I got to this place where I was like, everybody needs to learn HTML. Everybody needs to learn how to do this. This will be the publishing tool. This is the secret. Will unlock everything. And then desktop publishing, you know, the ability to publish with a click, the Web 2.0 tools, or the sort of nascent Web 2.0 tools. The day that Microsoft had a save as HTML function choice. And I nearly missed it. And I spent another year or two still teaching this way because everybody needed to learn HTML, damn it. But it was because I was going to conferences with that. It was because I was good at that, and I was the different teacher, and I was the one who could be blah, 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 blah. And I forgot to relearn. And I forgot that it was about what they needed. And what they needed to do was publish. What they needed to do was have their voices in the world, and what they needed was help. And it didn't matter whether they wrote href equals dot, you know, http : : It mattered that their voices were in the world, and there were adults on the other side of the computer willing to lend a hand. And I almost forgot that. So my scary thought for us, and especially as we think about school design, is what are we willing to unlearn and relearn? The cost of me not learning that lesson quickly enough was an extra year of teaching HTML in an English classroom and probably losing a little bit of time. Shame on me. The cost of us not asking this question now, when we're talking about school design, is profound. I can change my pedagogy year to year. Once we lay down the bricks and mortar, though, it's tough to change. I think we have to keep in mind something that we learn best when it matters to us. Christian referenced EduCon. EduCon is this conference that we host in our school. This is a photo from it. Literally, we get about 600 educators coming from all over the continent, if not the world, coming to our school. There's a couple people here who have been there. Is that you? No, it's not. The weekend goes by in a blink. How many of you have ever been in a moment, or in the last year, have been in a moment where you felt like you learned profoundly? Where you were in a profound, important learning moment? Show of hands. How many people have had a great learning moment in the last year? Okay, that's actually a little sad. Shouldn't every hand go up? But think about that moment where, and this always happens, like something broke you out of that reverie. Something broke you out of that moment. Your cell phone rang, the world intruded, your kids, whatever. And you looked down, probably not at your watch, probably at your cell phone, and realized that more time had passed than you thought. How many people know that experience? How many people think that we set up schools to be that for kids? We don't give them access to their passions, and then we don't give them the time to explore. And to that end, one of my favorite quotes is if John Cleese, of all people, right? Monty Python. Ministry of Silly Walks. If you want creative workers, give them enough time to play. And the best representation of that I have ever seen is the MIT Media Lab. How many people, has anybody ever had the opportunity to go to the Media Lab? If anybody ever lets you go. These are the smartest people in the world building cool stuff that will change the world. And their motto, by the way, if you can read it, is lifelong kindergarten. That's the way they roll. That is the smart, these people that I met, I got to spend a week there a couple years ago. I think I have a decent amount of intellectual game. Like, I'm not dumb. My jaw hurt at the end of the week because I just, the whole time. The collective intelligence of that place is astounding. And yet everyone I met there, every single person, retained a sense of awe and wonder about the world, and a sense of possibility, and a sense of joy and passion. And the sad thing is, lifelong kindergarten, which, by the way, in Philadelphia is being cut down to half a day, isn't even kindergarten anymore. My child's kindergarten, he was doing worksheets, and there was no rug to sit on. There was no beanbag chairs. There was no play. It was, and I swear to God, this is not a joke. And again, these are good people, good teachers who I liked. When we said to her at a conference, well, can they play a little more? This was the response. And again, this is systems thinking, right? This is, you know what creates it. She looked at my wife and I, and she said, we have to start getting them ready for the third grade tests. Right, and you can imagine me going, and then she's trying to build common cause. Well, you're a principal, you know how important the tests are. And I'm like, no, and my wife's kicking me under the table. Do not go into a diatribe, I'm pulling out PowerPoints.